Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and this video is going to be on returning to civility. Um, I've been watching the TV series Cobra Kai, and I really love it. It's a great series. And there was one scene that I guess kind of resonated with me the most, and it was a scene where this fat black girl who was always picked on at school comes into the dojo, and basically, it's like a karate school, and she's going to learn karate because she wants to be, gain self-confidence and all those wonderful things. And at first, the sensei, he's like a 80s style character, and he basically says no girls allowed, basically. But then he realizes, well, hey, he has an economic thing there, that he needs the money. He needs the students, and she's like the first willing to pay students that he's going to get. So he said, okay, and you can join, but why do you want to even join anyways, right? He asks her, and she basically says that she's getting bullied. She's getting cyberbullied. People are posting mean things about her on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is. And, he's like, oh, wow. So the natural thing that we think nowadays is, oh, that poor girl, that poor girl, she's getting cyberbullied, and they're so mean and they shouldn't do that. That's the way we think nowadays, right? That whole bullying and way of thinking, that we think bullying is wrong, and um, you know we shouldn't treat people like that, and cyberbullying is bad, and we think about those kind of things. Uh, but this is 80s, man. And I remember this as a kid too. Probably he said the same thing as my teachers would have said if it happened to me. Uh, he said to her, uh, those pussies. He called them pussies because instead of calling her fat and like a loser in her face, to her face, they were doing it online. They were doing it behind a screen. They were doing it where there was no consequences to their actions. They were just being pussies. They weren't being brave enough to really stand behind their words. And I love that. I thought, wow, this is really good. This is what I've been feeling for so long, that our society has become a bunch of pussies. That we've become these wimpy people that don't really have any conviction of our own. We 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 do things without really standing by what we're doing. We type it online, or we post a little comment, and we insult people, and we go, oh, I'm so brave, I'm so awesome that I commented against this evil Nazi. Like, that's the way people think nowadays. It's like, people aren't really standing up. I think about how when the George Floyd thing happened, and people were all like protesting and freaking out about it. And I made a video at the time about it, and I made a video where I put my face to it, like I'm just like I'm doing now, and I said that I don't necessarily agree with the narrative, and I think we should look into the evidence. I think we should think about it, and look at it rationally instead of this emotional reaction. And the emotional reaction was even worse than what I was really responding to. It was this groupthink. Not only did everybody have to believe that George Floyd was this angel from heaven that was trampled upon by this evil racist cop. That was the narrative we had to believe. But we also had to virtue signal that we believe this. And so people would have to put little black square on their Twitter account in order to show solidarity with this feeling that, oh, we're in there, so we have solidarity for the Black rights movement. And what does that mean? That's a pussy move in my mind. It's like, putting a black square on your Twitter account. Wow, how many black lives did that save? It's like it's meaningless. It's just pure virtue signaling, and it's groupthink. It's scary to me because what happens is if you don't put the black square, they shame you. Okay, and they shame you in a really horrible way. They'll say all these bad things, but they'll try to get you fired. They'll try to destroy your life, and they do it all behind their monitors, or they never do it to your face. They never say, hey, look, I don't agree with the fact that you didn't put your black square. you know and it's pussy. It's a pussy move. Okay, so I'm going to use the word pussy move a lot in this video, so that's the word of the day. um, and it's just, that's what I see our society becoming. We've lost any sense of civility, and I'd like to see a return to civility. So a lot of the time I do things that, in a way, I'm not a pussy in the general sense, but what I do is I do comment on other people's videos, and I comment on other people's comments, and I try to do it in a way that's very different than the standard way of people commenting. Generally, the way the comments go is this: you can say something intelligent, like facts about whatever. For example, facts about George Floyd, that there was no, in the autopsy, there was no choke applied. There was just no choke there. There was no blood or air choke. So you say something like that, and the response you would expect is, oh, where's the evidence? Or, show me where this says in the autopsy, or something to sort of say, back up what your words, right? But no, that's not the way people respond. The way people respond is, oh, you're a Trump supporter, or you're a racist, or you're, whatever, and some name. They just call you a name rather than responding to your argument. Now, in real life, if every time somebody does something I disagree with, I call them a Nazi or racist or something like that, I would probably get punched in the face. I would probably, have some, bad thing happen to me, because you just can't go around treating people like that. But online, that's how people treat each other. And that's a pussy move. So that's really what kind of the message was within Cobra Kai, where that girl, she was getting abused, but it's all this kind of abuse from people who are hiding behind their monitors. And it also, we have to realize is all those negative comments, all those negative things that people do, all the harassment that people do online, it's all bogus. It doesn't mean anything, because if you're not willing to stand by those words, if you don't put your your face on it, or if you don't willing to stand up and actually say those things into the person's face in person, then you're a pussy, and your words are pussy words. They don't have any value. So one of the things that I never get offended by people's comments. I never get offended by people attacking me for saying what I say, because they're usually pussies. They're a bunch of pussies. They don't have the fortitude and the conviction to stand behind their words, or even to give an intelligent response to the accusations that they make. Calling me a racist, or calling me a sexist, or calling me whatever ist that they want to call me means nothing to me. It really literally means nothing to me. I would be more offended by like a legitimate argument, maybe. I'm not offended by anything, actually, but but something legitimate. You come to my face and say those things. Yes, I might get offended, but doing it online, it means nothing to me. You're a pussy. Okay, say something that matters. Say something and defend yourself. And we have to understand that we can't be a bunch of pussies all the time, and we have to actually stand by our words and say things with some civility. So one of the things that I've done this experiment many times, where I comment on the Young Turks. I mentioned this in other videos, and Young Turks is a great place because it's the land of the pussies. It's like the pussiest of pussy people. They have like whatever million subscribers, and they're all pussies. Sorry, but they're all pussies. But they're basically people who are the ultimate social justice warriors. They're socialists. They don't really have a grasp of the real world. And whenever you comment something that goes against the narrative that is being pushed by the Young Turks, they do the basic pussy stuff. They always say, "Oh, you're a Trump supporter. Oh, you're a racist. Whatever." It's the same stuff every time, and they're so unoriginal about it. But what I do is I flip the script on it. I basically say, "Okay, I don't really care that you called me a name. Defend yourself, and here's why I said what I did." And I give logical reasons. I don't insult them. I don't like say, "Oh, you're a pussy." I don't actually call them pussies, even though they really are. uh, I debate them on a civil way. I treat people with respect even when they don't necessarily deserve it, and I give them the benefit of the doubt that they may have some legitimacy behind calling me a racist, or saying that my ideas are wrong. And I address it that way, where I give them, "Hey, this is my arguments. Here's where all my facts that I try to state in order to show my position, why I believe what I believe. And if you have something where you can rebut those ideas, I'm all for it." And if they present some logical thing, and they do sometimes, like sometimes they come back and they say something logical and it's a valid argument, and I say, "Well, gee, that I agree with that. I can't, debate it. I can't say that there's nothing wrong with what you said." And I will accept it. I'll say, "Okay, well, yes, I agree with that, but did you consider this?" And then I have that sort of back and forth where I sort of say, let's kind of build these ideas. And when you start dealing with people in that way, where you kind of return to civility of treating people fairly and nicely and with some respect, and like, you know, then what ends up happening is you have a real discussion, and things can come out of a real discussion. You don't necessarily convince them that to vote for Trump the next day. That's not going to happen. But at least you can sort of change their opinion of the current narrative, and maybe make them question it. And that's really important, because the narrative is so sick. I really don't like the current narrative that's being pushed in the mainstream, and we got to fight against it. But we don't have to fight it by fighting the same dirty tactics that they use often, which is to call people racist, to call people sexist, as a way of just shaming them into believing whatever you want them to believe. We don't have to apologize all the time anymore. Even though, for me, I'm Canadian, we apologize for everything. It's one of those things where we got to stop apologizing, stop being pussies ourselves, and really stand up for our own beliefs, and really do so in a way that's civil, that we don't just name call, or assume the worst in people. Always assume the best, that they maybe have some legitimacy behind their arguments, or even lack of arguments, but give them the benefit of the doubt, and give them like reasonable arguments, not just like crap that you think. You have to give them reasonable arguments, and back it up with something that shows that you've thought about it. For example, I posted, there's this one video about masks. It like really, propagandizing people that everyone has to wear masks, and we better all wear masks all the time, or the world's going to collapse. And I basically said, this is a video that's pure propaganda, and it's really against people's freedom, this whole mask idea. And somebody said, "Oh, you're just a Karen." They called me a Karen. Like, thanks. Okay, I'm a Karen. Great. Um, but I said, no. Well, the reason I'm against this is it's not scientifically based. There's no reason a mask will actually offer you any protection, or even society any protection, if people use it. And I stated some scientific studies on the situation. I stated you know some logical arguments based on it, and I sort of broke it down in terms of the logic, and sort of looked at it from a scientific standpoint. And I made the final comment when I was responding in that way, that I said, rather than assuming your opponent is an idiot, assume the best, assume that they might actually know something, and just try to find out what they know, question them. And generally what I find is, if you approach people that way, not only will you be able to get a better, you'll learn something, but you'll actually able to maybe break down some of the barriers that prevent people from really thinking about the whole situation clearly. Uh, and one of the things that I always found is, if you question people enough, you can really find out where their knowledge gaps lie. And you can generally win the argument, because you can sort of say, okay, well, this is how deep they really actually know on the topic. And then you can say, well, if you look at one level deeper, then you can actually kind of rebut what they've said. Because, for example, when they responded to me, they responded with the sort of mainstream media kind of talking points. Masks act as a filter; it blocks spit from going through, right? And I said, yeah, that's so true, and I agree with that. But they also trap stuff on the mask, and that can actually infect you. So, and often the case is that if you're asymptomatic, you don't have like stuff coming out. It's not like we're coughing. If you don't cough, there's nothing to block. So why are asymptomatic people wearing masks? It doesn't make sense. So just having that kind of logical uh, argument, where you sort of say, hey, why are we doing this if it's not necessary? Now, if you have something, well, wear a mask. If you feel like you're going to cough and spread it, actually wearing a mask isn't necessarily the best way either. Still, even if you have it, coughing into your arm, doing those kind of things is actually better than a mask, because what happens is you're blocking it at the time of the potential transmission. And there's like a lot of things that, if you just think about things logically, you can break down the argument and break down the narrative, and really help people to understand things. And that's really what I want to get back to. I want people to start thinking for themselves, challenging themselves on ideas, and when they challenge others, challenge them based on logic and understanding, rationality, rather than providing sort of an emotional argument where you just name call, or dismiss them as being a Trump supporter, or on the right they always dismiss people for being a lefty. It's the same crap. It doesn't mean anything. So what I hope is that we can return to civility, where we treat each other as humans, and we say things with the thought that we would say this to their face. Like, how would you talk to somebody in person? And if you can't say these things to them in person, then you shouldn't be saying them. And if you can't say this stuff to your mom, that's usually the old standard. If you could say that to your mom, would you say it? And that's usually a good standard, because it's polite. You got to learn to be polite. I mean, why aren't people polite anymore? It's so sad. And yeah, one other thing that I kind of liked, and it's another story. Just a quick story, um, is there was an old movie, a Jimmy Stewart movie called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and in it there's this small time guy. He's just like a small town guy, and he gets to go to Washington as a senator. He gets elected as a senator, And at first, the people that the swamp that was existing in the government at that time thought that they could control him, and they thought, oh, he's just a small guy. He's not gonna do anything that will rock the boat, and we can just control him and get him to vote the way we want him to vote. But he doesn't. He wants to do his own thing, and they don't like that. So what they do is they get the media to smear him. He's crazy and all this kind of stuff. They do a perfect smear campaign. Anyone that's watched Trump's career, you can see the same thing, right? And what happens is Mr. Smith, he reads all these things. He's like, this is totally bogus. These are all lies. And what he does is he goes to those media guys, because they're really just a bunch of pussies. They're saying it in the print, but they're not willing to say it in his face. And he goes to them and he questions him. He says, hey, you're going to say this to my face? He actually goes to the reporters and says, are you going to say this to my face? And he punches them. He actually punches the reporters in the face. And that's how people used to handle things. If you say a lie about me, or you say something really bad about me, I'm going to punch you in the face. And I'm not saying that people should go around punching each other in the face, but the point is, you should stand behind your words. And if you can't accept the fact that you're going to get punched in the face for saying these stupid things, then you shouldn't be saying those stupid things. You have to stand by your words. And if you're going to insult me, I'm a 3rd-degree black belt. Like, you're gonna get messed up so bad. So and that's maybe what gives me the confidence. Like, I'm not afraid to say what I have to say, because I know I can defend myself. And when people come up to you and they say what they think, and you are scared and you're not willing to defend your words, then you're not going to say what needs to be said. So that's why I believe in martial arts. That's why I like Cobra Kai, because it's a show about martial arts, and it's all about that confidence, and stop being a pussy, basically. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just one that I've been thinking about a lot, where I've been kind of annoyed whenever I make a comment online. I see, I put a lot of effort into these comments, and I say something really intelligent. I give all the facts, and then somebody says, you're just a Trump supporter. I'm like, come on, give me something intelligent. I just really wanted to address that. It's been something that's bothered me. If you're bothered by it too, please comment below and give me your feedback, and give me good ideas. Okay. So talk to you later.